Hello, I'm Eddie O'Sullivan. I am live in Cassino on the 18th of May, 2024, and this is This Week in the Italian Campaign. In This Week in the Italian Campaign, brought to you by the Freedom for Italy Second World War Network, the last day of Operation Diadem on the 17th to the 18th of May, 1944. On the evening of the 16th of May, German Supreme Commander in Italy, Field Marshal Albert Kesselring, concluded that the Gustav Line was irredeemable. Orders were issued for German forces to withdraw to the Hitler Line, also known as the Senger Line, after 14 Panzer Corps Commander Lieutenant General Friedrich von Senger und Etterling. It was also called the Dora Line. Across the front, the 5th and 8th Armies prepared to finish off the remaining German strongpoints and, if possible, capture as many German soldiers as possible. On the 78th Division front, 11 and 38 Irish Brigade had reached the second of the lines in the division's four-phase advance through the Gustav Line. By the night of the 16th of May, 2nd London Irish Rifles and 2 Royal Lancashire Fusiliers were on Pytchley and were preparing to advance on the morning of the 17th of May to Fernie, at least 1,000 yards to the front. The 1st Royal Irish Fusiliers, known as the Fogs, supported by 4 troops of tanks from 16th Lancers and 1 troop of 234 anti-tank battery under the battalion's command, were to take over the Irish Brigade drive with the Lancashire Fusiliers on the right. The attack started at 7 o'clock in the morning with an artillery barrage on initial targets. At 7:15, the Fogs moved off from the start line with the Lancashire Fusiliers. At 10 o'clock, the initial targets had been reached. The battalions were ordered to exploit the advance and move on to farmhouses overlooking the railway and Highway 6 to Rome. They were reached at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. At 7 o'clock in the evening, mortar shells were fired over the road to show 78th Division was poised to cut it off. To the west, reports came in that the tanks of the Lothian and Border Horse had gone beyond Piumarola on the Bidel line. The Derbyshire Yeomanry was reported to be heading for Aquino on the Hitler line. The Irish Brigade was ordered to exploit the situation, but found Piumarola was actually strongly held, with anti-tank guns, self-propelled artillery, and Mark IV Panzers. The 6th Royal Inniskilling Fusiliers, commanded by Henry Braden, was ordered to capture the village. It was supported by tanks of the Lothian and Border Horse. The attack began at 5:45. By nightfall, Piumarola was taken. Braden had been wounded by shrapnel on the start line, but continued to direct the attack until he passed out from loss of blood. On the Canadian Corps front, south of San Angelo in Theodorice, 3 battalions of the 3rd Brigade, each supported by a squadron of tanks of the Three Rivers Regiment, attacked in succession. The Royal Van Duze Regiment was in the lead, and the West Novas and the Carleton and Yorks following through. There was limited resistance because German formations had been withdrawn to the Hitler Line, but 16 tanks got stuck in bogs and minefields. Nevertheless, the Van Duze secured a bridgehead west of the Monte Cassino. To the left, 1st Brigade's axis of advance lay across the galley of the Spalla Bassa, which formed a tank obstacle midway between the Pignataro Road and the Monte Cassino. It took the Hastings and Prince Edwards, deprived of the help of their armour, all day to cross the ravine. In the 3rd Brigade, a squadron of 142 Regiment of the Royal Armoured Corps, supporting the 48 Highlanders, was delayed by mines at the Spalla Bassa crossing and lost 5 tanks to Panzerfaust fire. The Highlanders, fighting forward without armoured support, stormed a German position on high ground a mile west of the Spalla Bassa. By the end of the day, 1st Brigade had drawn level with the 3rd Brigade overlooking the Monte Cassino and was no more than 4 miles from the Hitler Line. A counterattack that night was repulsed. On the 2 Corps front, on the 17th of May, 351 Infantry moved down the west slopes of Mount Hurazzo to capture Monte Grande across the Itri Pico Road, but a strong delaying force on the hills west of the Itri Valley blocked an attempt to cut off the German withdrawal up Highway 7. Fire from self-propelled guns, tanks, mortars and snipers inflicted severe casualties in the 3rd Battalion. The battalions of 351 infantry attacked again after dark, but were stopped by tanks along the Itri-Pico road. To the left, the 85th Division took Formia. To the right of two corps, the French Expeditionary Corps continued to advance. By dawn, the 17th Groupement Bondy was 2,000 yards south of Esperia and ready to join the 3rd Algerian Division in encircling the town. The Algerians entered the town unopposed in the late morning. Almost immediately, there were sexual assaults on its citizens, and no less than 200 were murdered. On Monte Cassino, two Polish Corps' second attempt to cut off the abbey breakthrough to Highway 6 and link up with 13 Corps had begun at 6 o'clock on the evening of the 16th of May with the advance of two battalions along Phantom Ridge. They were confronted by a ring of German outposts from Colle Sant'Angelo, 0.575 to Albanetta Farm, but made progress along Phantom Ridge. A further infantry attack following a bombardment of German positions began at 6 o'clock in the morning of the 17th of May. Colle Sant'Angelo was captured but lost following a German counterattack. A fresh attack on Colle Sant'Angelo was launched at 4 o'clock in the afternoon of the 17th of May, but held up. At 7:30 that morning, 3rd Carpathian Division had attacked the southern end of Snake's Head Ridge and .593, using ropes to climb the steep side of the ridge. Two battalions worked their way along the ridge from 593 to Albanetta Farm. Repeated attacks were made, supported by fire from 4th Armoured Regiment in the gorge leading to Albanetta Farm. The assault continued as night fell, but at 9 o'clock, two Polish Corps commander Władysław Anders suspended operations. Because Highway 6 was still open, German paratroopers singly and in small groups began to slip away from Monte Cassino, as ordered the previous night by Kesselring. The next morning, the 3rd Carpathian and 5th Crossover Divisions began a fresh assault, but they found Albanetta Farm empty and .593 to be abandoned. The only fighting was at .563, which was taken by 10 o'clock in the morning. The Carpathians Reconnaissance Regiment, 12th Podolski Lancers, sent a patrol into the abbey and found 30 wounded Germans and medical orderlies. An improvised regimental pennant comprising a Red Cross flag and a blue handkerchief was raised over the ruins of the Abbey of Monte Cassino. On the 16th of May 1944, Folks Major Laurie Franklin Vale wrote a letter to his wife Olive in the UK as he prepared to lead his company in the attack on Fernie the next day. The new officer was very shaky at first, and that of course rather shook his platoon. We were heavily shelled on arriving in a certain position, and while naturally everyone dived for cover, he threw himself flat and buried his face in the ground. This shook his platoon considerably, and a couple of them got shell-shocked, or bomb-happy, as we call it out here. I had a lot of trouble with that platoon that day. 4 men went and deserted, and it began to look as if the real rot was setting in. So I had a very straight talk, and I got the whole company together and gave a real hard-hitting talk, straight from the shoulder. I spoke of the white-livered, gutless skunks who deserted their comrades, painted a very grim picture of what would happen to them, told them that my risk was far greater than theirs, that I would rather die and know my wife and daughter could hold up their heads for the rest of their lives knowing I had done my job, rather than live disgraced and bring shame and misery on my family. I spoke quietly, but put every ounce of force I possessed into what I was saying, and delivered at such a time and place it had a very big effect. Some of the NCOs told me afterwards it was just what was needed, and morale went up enormously, and since then they have been quite happy and cheerful. I'm now wearing the 1939-43 star. I'm feeling very well, and so far managed quite a good deal of sleep. All my love and kisses, darling wife, to you and Valerie, your ever devoted husband, Lawrence. The next letter Olive Franklin Vale received was written on the 18th of May 1944 by Lieutenant Douglas Room, one of Laurie's platoon commanders. Dear Olive, I have very sad news to give you. Yesterday morning, about 7:45, Laurie died. I was about 5 yards from him when the shell exploded, so I was with him immediately. I'm certain he was not conscious after he had been hit, and so suffered no pain. He died in a few minutes. There is so little I can say to help you in your great loss, but all my heart and sympathy is with you. I'm still numb about it, and I'm very grieved. He was such a wonderful officer, and the men loved him. He understood them so well, and was so wholehearted in his genuine liking for them, cheered them up and gave them courage. Where things were difficult, they knew he would be there, and merely in being there helped them. So many of the men yesterday and today have spoken to me and said some wonderful things about him, and have shown their greatest affection and respect for him. I always felt the happier when he was there, and he has helped me so much and given me courage. Laurie will be buried this morning in the cemetery, and I will go and see his grave at the first possible opportunity. If there's anything I could do or tell you which will be of any help, please let me know. Do believe that you have my deepest sympathy, and that I share very sincerely in your sorrow. With much love, from Douglas.
Well, that's a very sad episode that brings to conclusion a series of letters written by Laurie Franklin Vale to his wife in the UK. It's taken us over around 9 months of letters expressing his feelings about what was happening here and his love for his wife and his daughter Valerie. So all I can say at this point from Cassino, less than 2 miles away from where Laurie Franklin Vale is buried in the Commonwealth War Cemetery, where we'll be tomorrow, along with many dignitaries, including the Duchess of Wessex, is to say, send out our best wishes to all the family of Laurie Franklin Vale. We know they are there across the world, and to everybody who suffered loss in this terrible battle here 80 years ago. So, with that, from everybody here in Cassino, from my brother Richard O'Sullivan, I want to say goodbye, good luck, and may God bless you all.